The jetties at South Padre Island help make some of the best surf in Texas. And out at the ends, and on both sides of them, breaks some of the biggest surf in Texas. And in between them are a couple of sheltered waves that break like points. The south side's a well-formed right. And on the north side is a left that gets bigger, and people call it the Cove. The Cove breaks on large swells with easterly direction in them and is a rare treat for Texas surfers. But there can be big differences between the size and quality of a cove swell, and this raises questions why some are better than others. Usually the reasons are obvious, like the size, strength, and proximity of the storm creating them. But sometimes a better swell comes from a smaller and more distant storm, in which the direction it's moving and its forward speed are more important. This video will compare several different hurricane swells and show some great cove surf, and talk about potential reasons why the cove broke better in some swells than others. In late September 1998, Hurricane Georges weakened over Cuba and entered the Gulf near Key West, Florida as a Category 2 storm with 105-mile-an-hour winds. It maintained this strength as it moved northwest over the Gulf for 3 days, eventually striking the coast of Mississippi. A couple of days later, big Texas surf arrived from it at South Padre Island, and the Cove broke with good size and form, lasting most of the day. The size of this swell was surprising, especially when compared with swells from more powerful storms. For example, Hurricane Dennis in July 2005 also weakened over Cuba, but revved back up to a Category 4 storm with 145-mile-an-hour winds over the Gulf. It sent a huge swell that broke big outside the jetties at South Padre Island, but hardly broke in the Cove at all. Comparing archived data from a couple of buoys shows that Georges, a smaller and weaker storm, actually created a bigger swell, 10 feet at 14 to 15 seconds versus 6 feet at 12 to 14 seconds for Dennis, probably due to the fact that it moved slower and was over the open Gulf longer. The direction the swell traveled towards South Padre Island was probably better from Georges too, with Dennis's direction fluctuating between east-southeast and east-northeast, and Georges being almost due east. About a month later, Hurricane Katrina crossed South Florida and entered the Gulf as a Category 1 storm, before rapidly intensifying to one of the strongest Gulf storms ever, spending 3 days over open water and taking a good wave-making track for Texas. Wave heights from the Katrina swell topped out at 12 to 13 feet at 15 to 17 seconds on the two buoys. It produced huge, clean Texas surf at the ends of the jetties, but a lackluster swell in the Cove that was sectiony only broke for a couple hours, with only a handful of sets that were head high or maybe a little bigger at times. 2004's Hurricane Ivan was also a famously strong storm that slipped through the Yucatan Channel and entered the Gulf as a Category 5 before spending 2 days over open water, weakening to a Category 4 and making landfall in Alabama. The swell was huge and rough from Ivan outside the jetties, and the only place you could surf it was in the Cove. Despite being a weaker storm than Katrina and staying in the Gulf a shorter time, its buoy readings surpassed Katrina's, reaching 17 feet at 16 to 17 seconds, with the swell direction kind of chaotic, fluctuating between east, southeast, and northeast. The Cove broke all day from Ivan with a lot of good sets and was better than Katrina, but neither came close to the swell from Georges, a smaller, weaker storm that got no closer than either of these storms. The best Cove swells in this video were due to the size, strength, and proximity of the storms making them. Hurricane Ike in 2008 was a big, powerful storm that actually hit Texas. It was only a Category 2 over the Gulf, but it had a huge wind field, which gave Ike one of the largest amounts of total energy of any Atlantic hurricane in recorded history, with wave heights reaching 22 feet out of the east-northeast, 60 miles offshore, a huge buoy reading that close to the Texas coast. Hurricane Ike went ashore on Galveston Island with a gigantic storm surge that destroyed surf spots on the upper coast of Texas that had been around for decades. It was the nearest landfall of any storm mentioned in this video and made a lot of wind along the entire Texas coast and sent stormy surf to South Padre Island, making the sheltered Cove the only place to be. Hurricane Rita in September 2005 was the most intense storm ever in the Gulf, with winds reaching 180 miles an hour. Buoy heights were 17 feet at 17 seconds, smaller than Ike's, but from a near due east direction. Rita's landfall was further away from South Padre Island than Ike's, which meant less wind than Ike. And while the beachfront surf was big and stormy, the Cove received a great swell. Other types of weather systems can make the Cove break too, but tropical systems seem to be the best, especially big or strong ones that get close, or a slow-moving storm that moves through a window that creates a due east swell. The South Padre Cove continues to be one of the best surf spots in Texas, and will always be a special place for Texas surfers as they patiently watch the weather maps, waiting for the next big swell out of the east.